Good evening, YouTube, and welcome to the Piper Report. So, the new jobs report came out, and the question is, was it good or bad for Trump? And well, it was quite good. I will go over the statistics here and just do a little analysis of it, and what we can expect, what we can project from the future, because I think you'll see better things. Now, before I begin, I have to say that we cannot just praise Donald Trump for this. Whether we like it or not, Obama did have some part in job growth. Usually, the first year of the new president is a mixture of both the newer president's policies and the previous president's policies. Trump's deregulation definitely helped, which I will go over soon, and although I vehemently disagree with it because in the end it actually produces negative effects, Obama's Keynesian economics modality of basically stimulus spending and deficit spending also did help, but it's looking good right now. So let's go over some of the statistics. With 228,000 jobs created in November, joblessness at a 17-year low of 4.1%, and wages rising, it can no longer really be doubted. Donald Trump's relentless focus on tax cuts, deregulation, and draining the swamp is great for job growth. Even some normally critical media now admit the economy's underlying shift. The American job market is the strongest it's been in a decade, and arguably the strongest since 2000, wrote the New York Times. The Times is right, and the change is noteworthy, especially when viewed year over year. Even though the workforce expanded by just under 1.1 million workers in the past 12 months, the number of people employed is 1.87 million. That's why the unemployment rate continues to drop. But the most interesting part of the jobs report, which goes almost unnoticed by the media, is that it's not just a few groups seeing more jobs and opportunity. It's broad-based, with minorities, women, men, and even those with low incomes showing the best gains. So, here is some of the statistics. Let's see here. Groups that lagged in recent years show major improvements. For instance, jobless rate for African Americans dropped from 8 to 7.3%. Hispanics fell from 5.7 to 4.7. Asians stayed at the same, which is pretty low, 3%. Among adult men 20 years and over, unemployment has plunged from 4.3 to 3.7. Likewise, adult female dropped from 4.2 to 3.7. Teenagers appear to be worse, but most of the teenagers are still working on minimum wage jobs and things of that nature. Wages actually did go up as well. And I want to kind of go over why a lot of this is happening. I'll put the link to this article so you can view more of the statistics, but I think we have to dive deep into exactly what deregulation can actually do. So, most people remember the Wall Street collapse of 2007, and I myself have been kind of ignorant on the subject. I believe that it was strictly the bank's fault that caused the collapse. However, after I got a little bit older and wiser, I realized that it wasn't just the greediness of the banks. The government was also involved. And the reason why that Wall Street collapsed was because they were giving off loans, mortgages, to people that had no business having a mortgage. People whose credit scores were like 500. People who did not have a full-time job, who could not actually pay this back. And the common contention is that this is strictly due to those greedy bankers who wanted money at all costs. So they decided to give out loans knowing people can't pay them back, but didn't really care. However, what most people leave out, and what the corporate media and just the mainstream Democratic Party in general doesn't ever want to say, is that the reason Wall Street was able to do those things was due to knowing they would get a guaranteed payback from the government. Does anybody remember Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? What that did is that essentially guaranteed those banks that they can give out those risky loans, because no matter what, the government is going to pay them back. So to them, it didn't matter. Kind of look at it like this. Say you're going about in your daily life, and the bank comes up to you, one of your banks that you go to, and they said, tell you what, we are going to give you what you want, money-wise, and you can spend it on whatever you want. And don't worry if your project fails, if your endeavor that you spend it on, don't worry if that produces no results and you can't pay us back. We are going to cover it for you. What would you do? Well, you would take that money they give you because it is essentially free money. And you would maybe start a small business, or you go buy drugs or, cars, whatever, but that is key here. That is key because there is no risk in it. You can do whatever you want with that money because you are guaranteed a repayment. And that remittance removes all risk from your life, all fear. And the thing with the economy is that, and the thing that why I strongly disagree with Keynesian economics is that it removes that risk. It always wants the government to be able to always back everybody up. But that's not how life is. The reason why there are so many people on welfare and entitlements is because the guarantee that they will always have those entitlements. I'm not saying you should just cut everybody off entitlements, but when you give someone the opportunity, when you take away the risk, people are going to make a lot poorer decisions because they know that they really aren't losing anything. And I want to circle back now to Wall Street, and that's exactly what happened. So it isn't just deregulation that caused Wall Street collapse. It was the government getting involved as well. And now I bring that up because Trump has removed a lot of regulations. I think like 800 regulations. And this has definitely helped with job growth. Again, if you were a small business owner, some of the regulations you would have to pay would be like a higher tax code. Most small businesses have to pay the individual tax rate, and that is 39.6%. That is a lot of money, especially for a small business and you are trying to start a business up. You also have regulations that affect you. For instance, there is the Obamacare tax, which really hurts small businesses. There is the minimum wage. There is overtime. There is fiduciary rules for investment advisors. There is the Clean Air Act, or EPA regulations. There are a lot of small business regulations. Now, Trump hasn't cut all of these, but he has cut a lot of the red tape that prevents businesses and prevents small business owners from starting up a new endeavor. And that is also very imperative and very pertinent to the reason we are seeing job growth. So, what can we conclude from this? I think that no matter what the resulting tax bill is, no matter what finally gets passed, and like I said, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, I do believe that tax reform will happen. The Republicans will get it done. How it's going to be, I am not sure. But even if they do nothing but cut corporate tax rates, you are still going to see job growth. Because with less taxes and less regulations, more companies are going to come over. For example, the American corporate tax rate is 35%. China has 12%. I think the Scandinavian countries are around 15%. Now, I know most people think that those corporations don't actually pay 35%. They pay zero, which isn't true. And I do find it funny, kind of an aside here, that like people like Bernie Sanders who just hate all these corporations, all these people that support Bernie Sanders that hate these corporations, they're probably listening to Bernie Sanders and reading what he writes on their smartphones, which was created from a corporation. So they only hate the CEOs. They don't hate the workers or the corporations themselves. And yes, there are some greedy CEOs, but there are some good ones too. And cutting the corporate tax rate should not look like only the CEOs are receiving billions and billions of dollars and it's not doing anything good for the economy, because that's just wrong. That is wrong on so many levels. So in conclusion, this is good. This is good. We have seen good job growth, good deregulation, and I project that we will see more of this after taxes get cut. But just a few things, that's really important to always think about, is that there's always two sides to a story. And I bring that up because of the Wall Street fiasco. I myself believed that it was just a greedy bankers, but that's not true. The government gave them the venue to do those greedy things because they knew no matter what they did, they were going to get paid back from the government. So when government gets involved with businesses, you see stuff like that happen. Anyways, I will put down the link to this in the description. And if you guys have any interesting articles or anything, send me them on email and I will see if I can find them. When I say interesting, I want crazy stuff. Not necessarily you see like on Fox News, mainstream media stuff. I can get that myself, but there is usually stuff in your local newspaper that isn't covered in the mainstream that can be quite serious and quite intense, for lack of a better word. So, alrighty, and I'm done.